Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, ICN families. Today's verse is in Surah number 2, verse number 97 and 98, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل من كان عدوا لجبريل فإنه نزله على قلبك بإذن الله. Say, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whoever is the enemy of Jibreel alayhi salam, indeed it is he who has revealed the Quran upon your heart with the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. مُصَدِّقًا لِمَا بَيْنَ يَدَيْهِ, affirming that which came before it. وَهُدًى وَبُشْرَى لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ, any guidance and a glad tidings for the believers. مَنْ كَانَ عَدُوًّا لِلَّهِ وَمَلَائِكَتِهِ وَرُسُلِهِ وَجِبْرِيلَ وَمِيكَالَ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ عَدُوٌّ لِلْكَافِرِينَ. Whoever is the enemy of Allah and His angels and His messengers and of Jibreel and Mikail alayhi salam, indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the enemy of the kafirin, of the disbelievers. So there are a couple of incidents that happen with the revelation of this verse. Once, there was a rabbi from Fadak. His name was Abdullah bin Suwadiyah. He came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, talked to him, debated with him for some time, and then he asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He asked him, well then, which angel brings down the revelation to you? Which angel is it? So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said it was Jibreel. Jibreel brings down the revelation to us. So then he told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that, you know what, Jibreel is our enemy. He is the one who brought down the chastisement and the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if he's the one who's bringing down the revelation, then we can't believe in it because he's our enemy. If it would have been Mikail alayhi salam, then we would accept it. And then he gave an example. And then he said, no, I'll give you one example. Then he told the Prophet sallallahu some story about Bukht Nasr, which is Nebuchadnezzar. He said that one of their prophets, right, got wahi. He received wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Bukht Nasr, or Nebuchadnezzar, he would come and he would sack the city of Jerusalem and he would conquer it. So what they did was they got an assassin to go after and to kill Nebuchadnezzar. At that time, Nebuchadnezzar was just a child, right? And so when the assassin finally reached him and he was alone with him, he was about to kill Nebuchadnezzar, and then Jibreel alayhi salam came and stopped him. And he said that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained it, right, if Allah has ordained it, there's nothing that you can do to stop it. And if it's not true, and you're not sure about the information that you have, then you'll be killing an innocent child. So then the assassin realized, yeah, maybe he might be right. So he left him and he didn't harm him. So they said, Jibreel alayhi salam stopped us from doing that. So and later on, Bukht Nasr did come and he conquered and sacked Jerusalem. And for those who don't know, Nebuchadnezzar, basically, Jerusalem and Syria were in the hands of the Babylonian Empire, but then they lost it to the Egyptians. So then eventually they got it back, and they appointed some their own people to look over it. They appointed the Jews amongst themselves, someone from amongst the Jews to look over Jerusalem, but then they rebelled against Nebuchadnezzar and they sided with the Pharaoh at that time. And so that led to a siege, and eventually that siege, he eventually conquered Jerusalem and Syria back. So that's one part of it. The other is that Umar radiallahu an, he used to often go to the Beit al-Midras, or the Jewish madrasas, so to speak, the Jewish schools, the Torah schools in Medina. and he would visit them often. So they told him one day, we love you more than anybody else. So he asked them why. Why is that? And they said that, it's very simple. Because you come and you visit us all the time. So then Umar radiallahu anhu said, the reason why I come visit you, because when I always come and I compare the Quran and the Torah, and I just see so many similarities, and it's uncanny for me how amazingly similar they are. So then he asked him, then, how come you don't believe? Actually, what happened was that then the same rabbi that's mentioned this, the previous hadith, Abdullah bin Suwaidi, he pointed to Umar radiallahu anhu. He said, look, your companion, he meaning the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's walking over there. Why don't you go join him? He was going to, but then he asked him, why don't you believe in him? Right? If you know that he is the truth, he is the true prophet. So then the rabbi said that, because it is Jibreel who brings revelation, and we are enemies with Jibreel. So then Umar radiallahu anhu got upset because it didn't make any sense. How can you be the enemy of Jibreel alayhi salam? He told him, and he also said that if it was Mikael, we would have believed him. So he said it's not possible for neither Jibreel alayhi salam nor Mikael alayhi salam nor their allies to be enemies and have hatred for one another. Right? Because think about it, it doesn't make any sense at all. They are the messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the angels of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't act without the permission of Allah. So if you have animosity against them, your animosity is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? You hurt the messenger, you're hurting the king. So and he knew that. So I'll bring all these things together. This is the reason why. Then when he came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before he could utter a word or say anything, these verses, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam recited these verses to him. The Prophet ﷺ recited these verses. So what happened was, you look at these verses, and even yesterday, the verses we read yesterday, verse number, I believe it was 89, you'll see a commonality. They could not suppress their prejudice, their hatred, their animosity for Islam, and for the Arabs. They couldn't take it that the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose someone from amongst the Arabs to be a prophet, not one of them. And this bothered them so badly that they were willing to essentially rebel. I mean, their anger is with who? Why did Allah choose them? So they're being angry with Allah. They're being stubborn with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, think about it. How can you be a believer, a mu'min, and be angry and have hatred with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because he didn't choose you or your kind? So the root cause is prejudice, racism, discrimination. These types of things was what led to, in essence, also arrogance, because that's the root of all these different emotions that people feel, or these feelings people have. The root of all these things, all this discrimination, is kibr, right? Arrogance. So this was the root cause, and this is something that we have to be very careful, because it is so prevalent in our communities, whether it's the Indo-Pak, the subcontinent communities, the Desi community, whether it's the Arab communities. Anywhere you look in our countries, Muslim countries, prejudice and discrimination is so prevalent. It is. I mean, we just because someone is from a different village, we discriminate. We don't let our children marry them because they're from a certain village, they're from a certain town, they speak a certain language. It's more prevalent in our countries than it is over here in the West. So, and this is what led to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's punishment and really Allah's curse upon these people. So we have to be really careful as Muslims. Our heart must be free from these types of things. If we really want to benefit from the Quran, from the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to be good Muslims and get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this attitude will always act as an obstruction. It will always stop us from getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it's a source of Allah's curse and Allah's anger. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala free our hearts, purge our hearts of animosity, of arrogance, prejudice against all types of people. You look anywhere in the world today, whether it is the Rohingya Muslims, whether it's the the Uyghur Muslims in China, whether it's the Palestinian brothers and sisters, anywhere in the world, not just in Muslim countries, anywhere where there's genocide, where there's in the world, the root cause is this: racism, prejudice, and discrimination. So may Allah purge our hearts, clean our hearts from this, and protect us from it. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the path towards Jannah easy for us. Jazakallahu Khaira. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.